We're
Yes.
live.
Yes.
Go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from or if you are catching us on replay. This is The Awesome Journey, and I am your host, Kelle Steinicke, along with my co-host in care, Christy Howard. And we're just two girls that connected on LinkedIn 15 years ago, live on opposite sides of the country, have giving hearts, a passion for paying it forward. And I may have prayed to be living louder in my purpose. And now here we sit in front of microphones, bringing you the awesome journey. And as many of you know who have been here before, and for those of you that are new here, one of our primary goals was to highlight incredible individuals to share their unique stories and challenges, because we all need a little reminder that we are all united in our personal journeys. And one of our other goals was definitely to help job seekers, business owners, because there's so many questions around all of that, right? On LinkedIn particularly. And that brings us to our very special guest today, Linda Michaels, who is right here in Arizona with me. Girl, we got to get together sometime. So
Yes.
and we are going to, Linda's been an HR professional for, I think, 25 years. She's certified, has started her own business, and has a pretty cool integrated HR solution for all you small business owners and businesses. And we'll let her explain all of that when we get to her. And we do apologize for being a couple minutes late, but tech. And it's not even Mercury in retrograde anymore. What the heck? Um, but before we turn it over to Linda, I want to remind everyone that chat is open. If you have any questions along the way, please do include them. And please do connect with Linda. And we'll have all the links and such in the comments and also on the repost. So before we turn it over to Linda, I will turn it over to my co-host in care, who is a resilient little thing and made it happen, Christy Howard.
Yes, technical issues, but I'm not mouthing that F word today. Well, I did earlier, but it is what it is. So Linda and I met like Kelle and I did. Linda and I met in 2008. I was living in Arizona. We were networking, and LinkedIn is a wonderful place. She was very involved in the community, nonprofits, and just working her HR stuff. So we've kept in touch. She came out for my wedding, and yeah, so you never know who you might meet off of LinkedIn. So connections, connect people. You might meet a friend. So I wanted to bring Linda on because you all know that I do try to talk for the job seeker. And I also have the frustration with HR and recruiters. What Linda does is she's a consultant group that gets people to understand how you should do things. So we'll be talking about ATS, the recruiting, the interviewing, and old school ways. So Linda, tell us about you. How you started, what you stopped at, where you came back, and how you've done fabulous things besides going out and playing golf everywhere I see you.
God bless you.
Yes, you have to make time for your passions, that's for sure.
Amen.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here today. Yeah, and I can't believe it's been that long, Christy, that we've known each other for like 100 years. And it's just crazy how our paths keep aligning and we do stuff. So anyway, I guess to kind of shock the audience a little bit, I was in corporate HR for more years than I care to admit. And I've always wanted to open my own business, and I never knew what that looked like. And so my dad passed away in 2015, left me a bunch of money, right? And so I'm like, okay, do I give it to my financial planner? Boring. So I decided to leave the HR world for a bit, and I went and bought a franchise. Ended up opening my own boutique, women's boutique with clothing, and I failed miserably. So I lost everything except for my house and my car, but I literally lost everything. And I looked at it like I was brought to this place for a reason. I did learn P&L. I did learn inventory. I did learn how to manage labor dollars and all that accounting, finance crap that nobody really wants to learn.
Christy loves it.
So, as I was closing my store and reflecting on what I've learned, instead of like my failure, I reflected on what I've learned. And a door opened and I walked through that door, and that was to stand up my own HR consulting company. And I've never looked back. You know, part of me is like, dang it, I wish I would have done this so much sooner, but you know, things happen for a reason, and you're put in a particular point in your life for a reason. And so that's pretty much how I got started.
So with you have Arizona hub, you're out of Arizona, but you don't just work for Arizona people, correct?
Correct. We support nationwide, and we're global. I am proud to say that we are global. Nice. We are supporting the Taiwanese market here as the new businesses are standing up, semiconductor in Arizona, but then also we're supporting a company in Taiwan.
Wow.
So awesome. How do you, you know, you help these consultants with the laws, hopefully understanding how to interview and respect the applicants, so the applicants can respect the HR and recruiters. But when you're dealing with different states and now globally, how do you, do you dig into the laws, because the laws are different?
Yes, the laws are different. It's our job as HR professionals and consultants to keep up with all the different employment laws by state, as well as now in Taiwan. Fortunately for me, I have a gal on my team who was born and raised and speaks Mandarin, fluent Mandarin, and understands all the laws in Taiwan. And so she's able to teach culture and global HR laws, and it's just fascinating, all the different talents that we have on the team.
And how do people find you? Sorry, Kelly, you know me, I'm on the wall. How do people
interrupt you in a minute, though? Go ahead.
So I have a pretty great network. So a lot of people know me through the HR community. A lot of my strategic partners know me. Very active on LinkedIn. And also, I would say that without ever having to pay for an ad on Google, we rank #1.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
That's cool.
Good for you for not giving $1 to them.
Yes.
I mean, that's awesome. I work with a lot of startups and worked with a lot of organizations that either did not have an HR department, or they had someone that was not qualified to be an HR person. And I know it's a struggle for a lot of small businesses. You know, they don't know really what their options are, solutions. Who is your target or your ideal client? And because I know you do integrated HR solutions also, which I think is freaking fantastic. But who is your target, and what do you do to help them, and what's your your sweet spot, if you will?
Yeah, so basically the small business owner is very underserved and
Yes.
on all levels, and that could be a whole nother show on how I feel about how small business owners get taken advantage by these different vendors.
Yes.
So, any company that is either getting ready to hire their first employee, they don't have a clue on what that looks like and how to stand that up. Mm-hmm. So 1 employee all the way up to 100 is normally what an HR person can handle. Anything over 100, sometimes companies think about having a full-time HR person, but the small business owner does not need somebody full-time. They need somebody that they can call when there's a crisis. They need somebody that can take care of their day-to-day stuff, so they are out of the weeds and then they can focus on their business. Our ultimate sweet spot is about 30 employees, where they need just enough help, but they don't need somebody full-time.
So explain to me, when you're working with the HR in the companies, HR and recruiters, would they have, are your companies, because they're small companies, having inside recruiters, or do they learn to work with outside recruiters to do their hiring and to understand what they have to do to onboard and, the 1099s or all those things?
Yeah, so sometimes our clients will go to staffing agencies and then they end up paying an arm and a leg for, a warm body.
Yes.
Our approach is completely different. So I have two full-time recruiters. And what I view as a recruiter is not somebody who just posts a job and sits back and waits for applicants to apply. To me, a good recruiter, number one, keeps the company or the client's branding at the top of mind. Number two, it gives the applicants an amazing experience from start to finish. And number three, we actually go and source to fit the culture of what they're looking for. And then once we find that talent, then we give them an incredible onboarding experience, again, keeping the client's branding at top of mind. So that way it's as if we're an extension of that client's team.
Mm-hmm.
What about ATS?
Dun, dun, dun.
They're good for storing resumes to build your pipeline, but to me, ATS systems are a waste of time. When you are making a candidate jump through 6,000 hoops to get a job, they lose interest very quickly, especially if you're highly skilled candidates like an engineer or a software developer. You cannot make these folks jump through hoops to get a job. It just doesn't happen. And it shouldn't happen, because the longer the process, the more you're going to lose out on the top talent that's out there.
So with the ATS, it's taken away the personal touch and the human touch of the person actually going, okay, they have it's old school, and they're saying, look, this is what we want to get to know. Because the job seekers taking their time to craft their resume, as per se everybody says that they have to. They craft their letter, they research, and then they're getting their resume maybe through the pipeline. I mean, to me, there's so much wasted time. So,
and I think, just to add on to that, one of, and it's not even just a highly skilled, someone who's been in the job market for a long time. What I freaking cannot stand is when it takes you to, the organization's platform from LinkedIn, as an example, and it says, upload your resume. You have to create a login, you upload your resume, and then it takes you through the process where you have to re-enter everything. And it's like, man, it is so time consuming. And, this is a pet peeve of mine, because of the impact that it has on the human. People are getting so frustrated and like, oh, why am I going to go through the trouble? Because I'm never going to hear from them. Like, that's another big issue, is the ghosting is just so massive. And really, to go back to HR, because I'm seeing some things that people are having to go through the hoops that are absolutely ridiculous. What have you noticed about the change of market that I think that job seekers don't know? That, like, hey, you can't ask me that. Like, it used to be the very obvious. You can't ask me my age. You can't ask me my sex, my race, my religion, the basic things. What has changed in that? And what are you seeing that, that organizations are doing that we may not even be aware of? Because I think there's been so much change and brokenness for
well, and I want to add in too, because when I work with people, I always say, when a recruiter or HR person calls you up and says, oh, especially if they find you on LinkedIn, and the first question they say is, what did you make on your last job?
Yes.
I always tell them, turn it around and ask them what the range is. Don't waste my time. Don't waste your time. Is it legal for them to even ask that?
Yeah. So to address the ATS thing, we don't use an ATS system for all the clients we support. We do not. We don't believe in it. Somehow my recruiters are able to work magic without a database and be able to give you top talent. So that's first thing. Second thing, still to this day, there are people who don't know how to interview and how to conduct legally
Exactly.
legal interviews, and that's unfortunate, right? And they run the risk of getting sued. We can help with that. So, little plug. Anyway, yeah. So a lot of the companies are not asking the right questions to see if they are going to be a good fit in the organization.
Where can they stop the bias? You know, when they're looking at a resume and going, well, they'll be bored, or, you know, they're overqualified, or, you know, all that.
Yeah, the bias will never stop. The bias will always be there. And these are the people that are just not educated. And, you know, for me, like, I get super excited when somebody fresh out of college, you can mold them into the most amazing talent that you've ever seen.
Yes.
They're young, they're hungry. And you know, I don't discriminate against age. Trust me, I'm old and I'm on my team, right? So, but like, it's about, for me personally, over the years, it's always been my gut instinct of like, I can easily formulate, not a biased, but like, are they going to be a good cultural fit to my organization? And are they going to be able to collaborate with others? And so we look for things like that. Yeah, you can teach a skill. It's nice if they have education in the field that they're trying to go after, but that's not the end all be all. It's finding the right fit to the organization, culturally, collaboration, and, you know, what value can they bring to your business?
Okay, first of all, I think she's frozen. Is she frozen on the other end with you?
She is for me, yeah. And I do know that there's an issue with comments. I was on a show right before this too, and had the same issue. But I've gotten quite a few messages saying, "Hey, I can't either get on or I can't comment." So there's definitely an issue going on. Technology on LinkedIn.
There you go. And then she's going to come back.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see if she can come back. Yeah, and it's not even Mercury in retrograde.
I know, that's what I said. Wow. Like, are you kidding me?
Seriously? I'm using my other computer. Okay, she must have popped off and then come back.
Log off, log back on. We don't know what's happening with the comments. So if you are sitting somewhere, because I've gotten quite a few messages, which is why I was looking down. My mom always was like, "Don't look away from the camera." But I've got other places to do things.
Okay, here she comes. Here she comes.
But do continue and put anything when we do the repost. We will be obviously sharing replay.
Let's see. Is she there, Linda?
I'm here.
I don't see you. I see a black hole. But you know.
I don't know what happened.
It's
Linda's looking a little bit in the dark.
I'm in the dark.
Hey, you're giving us great information.
That's right. That's what matters.
So going back to, is it legal for a recruiter to, first things they ask is, what did you make? How does a job applicant confidently say, it's none of your freaking business. Tell me what this job is going to pay me.
Right.
Is she there?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I mean, it's happening and we're rolling with it. And I think that's a great question. And I'm interested to see what she said or what Linda has to say, because she's the expert in this space. Because Chris, you and I, of course, talked about this and how we would address it, because it is. Well, I want to know what your range is, because the biggest mistake that we make is throwing out that, if we do throw out our salary and say it's, you know, 20 grand a year less than what they're offering, or 5 grand a year less than what they're offering, they're going to go with what you said.
Well, and plus
in a box.
Exactly. And if they end up answering the question that you ask and it's lowballing, it's like, okay, well, we don't need to have this conversation anymore
Right.
because, have you seen my resume and my experience?
Yes. And I have had that happen.
$20
where
an hour with, you need a
Yes.
bachelor's degree and, 15
I'm
years of
agreed, and it was
experience.
the CMO, and then you're interviewing me or putting me in this thing where the job is for 36,000 a year. Are you like, we could have saved everybody a ton of time on this.
Right.
Pass. I mean,
Right.
so insulting. I mean, that's an obnoxious example, but it's happened. I mean, it's just so ridiculous on how all of that happened. So I'm super bummed that we can't have her here because there were so many things.
She'll come back. She'll come back.
Oh, I know.
Hopefully. I mean, we both had problems with our internet.
Yes.
Or
Well,
logging
it's
on.
live stream
Restream.
in
Yeah.
general, it has been an
Yeah.
issue today.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
So something's
there-
going on somewhere, and it's definitely not us.
no,
But yeah, just all the
pretty
issues.
sure I can blame the Florida weather.
Yeah, but you can't because it's happening everywhere. Because Harvey's in the UK, because I was on Harvey's show right before this, and the comments weren't
Here she
working.
comes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh my Lord.
Oh, girl, we just rolled it. Yep.
So going back to my question is how tactfully, because you know me, I'll just spit it out because it's like either you want to talk to me or you don't. How is it legal for them to even, first question, what did you make with your last job? Well, people are looking for a job and they're just like, I don't know, because I think it's New York, California, and I think there's another state that have to be transparent on what, their range is. How do they turn around that and then also turn it around and say, if they say, okay, the range is, let's say 90 to 120.
Mhm.
And how do you turn around and say, well, is there wiggle room 120 up to continue the conversation? So what would you suggest?
So just so we don't violate laws, it's like I asked the candidate, what are your salary expectations?
Mm.
That's still tough because
It's
you
tough.
don't know what they could do.
Right, because there's been times where, and I'm saying this, and I know this is for a lot of people, as an executive, and I've been C-suite for a long time, but there's certain positions that I've applied for that are, and I say lower, it might be a VP or a director, because I'm cool with the job. Like, I want the job. Maybe I don't want the experience anymore. So I could be put, even though I might say my expectation is, hey, well, I'd really like 150 and up. But if you have a position that I truly can bring value to and that I like and was, say, 120, 125, hey, you know what? I still want to continue the discussion and let's talk about it. I don't want to be removed from that conversation.
Right. So we always let the candidate know, here is the range for our position.
Which is the best way to do it. Because now you're having a conversation.
Yeah. And then we explain to them that if you are bringing, if we're only requiring 5 years of experience and you're coming to the table with 15, they might be obviously wanting the higher end of the range. And then it's up to the candidate to say, is there any wiggle room to your range?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be able to say yes or no based on our, what the client's budget is. But that's the applicant's responsibility to talk about bringing what their expectation is, because we don't want to waste anybody's time.
Right.
If we're only paying 65,000 and you want 95, you're never going to be happy in that job.
Right.
So don't just take a job to take a job and then bitch about, and then be unhappy
You're
about
good, girl. You're totally fine.
is like, no, we're not going to hire you because you're never going to be happy with the range, and you're going to come in with resentment and bring that negativity to the workplace from the get-go. I've seen that way too many times. Way too many.
Why do you think all states aren't being transparent on their ranges?
I don't know. Each state does their thing. A lot has to do with politics. I won't get into that.
No. We could totally go into that one, but
no. So it's whoever the trendsetter is, some states follow, some states don't.
do you see these jobs that are being transparent on the range being are they truthful about it?
I know we
Right.
are. We're posting ranges, and we're very transparent with,
Love that.
you know, here's what we're looking for. Here's the salary range. Here's the work environment. I literally go through the good, the bad, and the ugly with every single applicant. So that way they know exactly what they're getting into.
Wow, framing the expectation properly. What a unique idea.
Yeah. So where could job seekers find jobs that are with the companies that you work with?
They can reach out to us and send their resume, and we're happy to. We support so many amazing different clients and different industries that one might be manufacturing, one might be software development, one might be an attorney's office. I mean, like, just the gamut. And so I will never turn down a resume.
Now, my other question is, because we had somebody on, a job seeker who's deaf, and we've had the conversation about the EEOC, is that what it's called? Where people are saying, no, I don't have a disability, because they feel that if I say yes, there's a bias, even though, you know, even with the sex and the race. I mean, this whole thing about Indeed, I'm sure you guys all read about the whole thing of Indeed paying $20,000 for people to move to another state that are friendly of transgenders. To me, that's a bias. That's discriminatory.
Yeah, I mean, discrimination is going to happen, right? There's companies that just don't do the right thing. However, if an applicant truly has a disability, it's up to them to disclose the accommodation they need. It's not, the onus is not on the employer. Like, they need to bring that to the table. And if they don't get the job and they are qualified for the job, and because they're deaf or because of whatever, they're vision impaired, whatever the situation may be, they might have a legit EEOC claim that they can.
How do they pull that out? I mean, how do they say, I was, qualified for this, but this is my feeling that I didn't get it for this.
Right.
Because
And
we see so many people that I'm qualified by this, but
yes,
they decided to pass me. So you can have your gut feeling, but how do you turn around and say, no, this was wrong?
Yeah. And even to add on to that a little bit, Linda, is just when you've got the at will, states, Arizona's one of them, Texas, and I know there's plenty more. But they stand behind that in the sense of, like, they don't have to have any reason. They can just say it's at will, so we decided to let you go. So that does diminish their ability to go to do anything with the organization as far as letting them go for discriminatory purposes.
So if an applicant gets declined and they feel it's because of their potential disability, if I were the applicant, I would be like, thanks for letting me know I didn't get the job. I would love some feedback on what I can do to improve in either my interviewing, or maybe I'm missing a skill. I would love some feedback as to why I was not considered for the job.
Mm-hmm.
However, recruiters don't usually answer those emails.
That's true. That's true. But, they will go through some scrutiny if the job description clearly has outlined exactly the expectations, and it should have some ADA stuff at the bottom of the job description. Mm-hmm. And then if the applicant truly feels that they were discriminated against, I mean, then it's hard to win against the EEOC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Explain to me the difference between a TA, technical, technical. The TA, the recruiters are technical, and just a recruiter that's for an EA, a C-suite recruiter. Are they all completely different? And why are we seeing more of them out of jobs?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are technical recruiters, and that's all they do is specialize in finding technical talent. So just like if you think about, like, I'm a generalist. I know recruiting, benefits, training, employee relations. Like I know the whole world of HR. Think of a recruiter that way. If a recruiter just specializes in engineering only or tech positions only, or if there's a recruiter that specializes in maybe more blue collar type workers, and then you have your recruiters who only focus on C-suite. So they're very specialized recruiters. So it's interesting because there was a recruiter that came on the market that has been in my network for 100 years, and she is fantastic. And I was stunned when she got laid off from a major company. And I was like, holy crap, like I need to make room for her because those people don't come on the market too often. And I snagged her up immediately, even though I wasn't hiring.
But so why? Okay, so these companies are laying off really good recruiters, but keeping recruiters that aren't really good, and giving their company not a really good name. I mean, some of these interviews I'm hearing that, I mean, I know somebody that's got an interview today, and I want to say it's her third interview, but today she's spending 5 hours.
That's ridiculous.
So she doesn't have time to go interview, look for other jobs. And she doesn't even know she wants this job to begin with, but it's like you just continue to go through the culture fit, when you're having a interview with somebody and they want to make sure if you're a culture fit, in other words, that's a popularity contest to me. It's like, okay, are they going to like me or not through this Zoom? Do they like my backdrop? I mean, it's just, where's the mental health issue? That's why it's just sort of like, I don't, people are so in their head why they're job seeking because they self-doubt themselves. They're just like, I'm not good enough.
Yep. They have to get over that.
Well, yeah, that's why they hire me.
They have to do that. It's a mindset shift. Yes. Number one is if you think in the negative, you live in the negative, you're never going to get the right job. It's thinking in the positive, and I will get that job. And if I need to go through a 5-hour process to get a job, next, move on.
Absolutely.
That's not the company for me. I shouldn't have to jump through 45 hoops to get a job.
That's ridiculous.
It's stupid.
That's when you need to network, and that's when you need to have a robust network that can help you open doors.
Yeah.
So I always tell people you're a business. This is the life now. You are a business. Businesses are putting out their jobs that they need to align with what they need. And you need to sit there and go, well, they called me. I'm going to sit down there and then I'm going to find out why they, pulled me in. And two, are you a business I even want to work for or work with? Because we're not back where we used to be, where people, worked for 30 years in the same place. You had the respect. I mean, I just put out a post about Salesforce. Salesforce did that huge layoff at the beginning of the year, and now they're rehiring. Why would somebody want, would you apply back for the job that kicked you to the curb? It's like going back to your ex-boyfriend that, cheated on you.
Right.
But you need a job.
A lot of those big companies use the layoffs as an excuse to get rid of the dead weight.
Right.
Yep. And just to get you a clean slate, right? It is a matter of like, we need to rebuild. So we're just going to wipe it out. One of the things I wanted to ask, because I know this has been a lot of things that I've been hearing and go back, because Christy mentioned this earlier, was about the whole thing when somebody says, we think you're bored, you're overqualified, which I believe quite honestly is a mask for ageism. But man, how do you get past that? I don't know that you can, certainly in some organizations, and it's easy to say, well, that company isn't for you. But I feel like that is the part where we're talking about, of course, mental health that is really screwing with people.
Well, how do you even get the conversation to let them know that you won't be bored because you saw the job application and I won't apply for it? You're not going to apply for something you think you're going to be bored with.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's people that have been in their careers for a long period of time, and they don't want to, for example, they don't want to manage people anymore. So maybe they just want to go back to being an individual contributor. So that's where you really have to hone in your skill to explain your why to a recruiter. Yes, I have my master's degree. Yes, I have 25 years experience. I don't want to manage people. I want to bring my value to the company, and I don't need this big inflated salary. I just want to be able to do something that I can show my passion and my value and my commitment, and do something that I love without the massive responsibility I used to have.
Do you believe in dumbing down your resume?
Potentially, yes.
Why? I mean, that, to me, that's taken away all the experience that I worked hard to have. So why would I dumb it down?
It's to get past the recruiters who don't have a clue. That's honestly, that's why.
That's a shame.
You shouldn't have to do that. It just depends. Like, if you're not having a great experience from out of the gate with a company, and if it doesn't feel good right away, back out of the process.
Absolutely. So talk to me about the ghosting.
Yes.
And that's not Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Yeah.
So this happens to us as HR consultants and recruiters. They ghost us. And we're like, the next big fish is waiting to be, jump on the line and be reeled in. I think it's terrible if we as HR professionals and recruiters don't get back to candidates, even if it's a simple thank you for applying.
Yes.
We are pursuing other candidates. Something is better than nothing.
And I know Christy mentioned this earlier, and I've always encouraged this, and I do this, when I do, or when I have, of late gotten into an interview process, and they're like, hey, thank you for applying, but we're moving on with other candidates, or however they word it, the thing of like, thanks, but no thanks, we're passing, is asking for that feedback. I think that's important for everyone to do. Like, I think you should always ask, and I know you're not always going to get a reply. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Always ask, right? If you don't ask, you don't get.
Right.
So like, there was a proposal that I submitted that I had a great conversation with the client or the prospect, and they're like, oh my gosh, you fit all the skills of what we're looking for an outsourced HR consultant. We would love for you to submit an RFP. I go through the whole process of submitting an RFP after the amazing conversation, and I didn't get them as a client. And so I was like, what? Like, what happened? And so I reached out and I said, just for my own development and for my own understanding, what were we missing? Did we not have the right skill set to bring to the table? Like what? And she gave me amazing feedback. So I'm like, okay, great.
No, that's cool. I mean, my brain just left the building. Probably it's yours.
And I know that go ahead. I know we're going to have to wrap pretty quick. I wanted to get to, there's so many things I could ask you, Linda, because I could talk about this literally all day, because I'm seeing so many problems with so many people. What is kind of like the overall big takeaway advice for people? One, maybe that are job seekers that they're missing out on, or two, just small businesses who maybe aren't aware of how they can have an integrated solution and what you offer. Just kind of your, highlight, takeaway, to-do list, if you will, for folks.
Yeah. So, like we come to the table with like a team approach. So like, you don't just get an HR consultant, you get a recruiter, you get an HR consultant, and you get your own payroll / benefits person. You get a team of 3 for one price.
Wow.
That's awesome. And I don't think people realize that. Like, and integrated solutions are incredible, and the value for them. And I'm saying that as a marketer, because integrated marketing solution for small business, I think, is an incredible option for that reason, because they never know who to hire, how to hire. And to go to someone that's what you guys do all day, every day. You're the professionals. You're the ones that need to plug in and relieve the pressure of HR. And I from just a person who has managed so many people in my career, is I've always had a great relationship with the HR department, but I certainly have seen HR people who are so not qualified to be doing what they're being asked to do. But I say, like, God bless you, sister, because the amount of crap that y'all have to deal with people, I mean, it's insane what people do and what they say in this crazy world. But I want to re-encourage everyone. And, again, we apologize. Technical difficulties today. There's definitely an issue with the comments. But we will make sure we post this in the replay and ask everyone to certainly connect with you and to ask any additional questions, to get in contact with you. Because I think this is a solution option that I don't think a lot of small businesses really do know about. That's just my opinion with working with so many local startups, et cetera. And like I said, we definitely need to get together outside since you're local. So Christy, what are your thoughts before we ask Linda to do her final?
Well, I dig deep when it comes to recruiting, and
I love it.
I see it on the other side. I see the frustration. I see the mental health just spiraling down. It's exhausting. It's so exhausting for these job seekers, and all they want to do is work. I mean, they didn't ask to get laid off, to be riffed, and they're just the games. I mean, just the complete BS conversations of not being transparent. And I hate to say it. I mean, karma happens, people.
Amen.
So there's a lot of people out there who are HR and recruiters. Hopefully when you get that job, you might change the way you approach job seekers and understanding the biases and making assumptions that when you see a resume, like, well, why do they have a gap? Well, why did you just go from 3 months here as a recruiter to 3 months here? I mean, recruiters bounce around the worst than I've ever seen. And it's only 3, 5, maybe a year. Yet they question so much of a job seeker who's got the experience and who does the due diligence. I've heard recruiters show up and say, my video's not working. I can't really hear. And 12 minutes later, okay, this is over. And then you get a reject. It's you didn't even get to ask the questions. Where you have the list of questions, again, you're doing your due diligence and you're digging in deep. I don't know. So my feeling is for the HR and recruitment, they need to understand. And I understand that outside recruiters will just have the job description. But put yourself in those people's shoes.
Yes, have some empathy and compassion, for God's sakes.
And look at it well, if I applied, what would I ask? And how can we go forward? Because there's a lot of wasted time. And when people waste this time, the mental health is just spiraling down. I mean, people are just not even looking anymore.
Yeah.
So Linda, as always, it's fabulous to see you. I will get out to Arizona eventually.
Yes.
Well,
the door is always open.
I know. So share with us how we can promote you, what we can do to, assist you, support you, and just do what we do.
Connect with you.
No, I appreciate it very much. Just being awareness to the people, right? Just continuing to educate from different perspectives and bringing different skills to the table. I guess my parting advice would be business owners should not be in the day-to-day weeds. Your job is to set the vision and the direction of the company, and you let the people around you execute your vision. And I've done that from day one of starting my company. I'm the visionary, and my people, which I have to tell you, I have the best team on the planet. My people execute every single day, and I'm so grateful for all of them.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Love it. So thank you again, Linda Michaels, for joining us today. We will include all of our contact information in the comments as well as our post promotion of this episode. And Linda, man, keep doing what you're doing because you're doing incredible things. I love that you're relieving small business because this is a huge deal of HR. And I'm happy to help in any way you can, or that we can. And Christy and I will continue to promote and help what you have done organically growing into this business, and wish you nothing but continued success now that you've gone global, which is totally rad. I love it.
So cool.
And we look forward to seeing everyone next Tuesday at 1:11 p.m. And remember, we are all on this journey together, and together we do make it